Welcome to the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. I'm Ty Higgins. Coming up in just a couple of weeks, the Young Ag Professionals Winter Leadership Experience happening January 26th and 27th in Columbus. One of our very special guests joining us on the podcast right now, Jolene Brown. She is a walking, talking spokesperson and champion for the people of agriculture. Jolene, welcome to the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast.
Thank you, Ty. I'm excited to be coming your way in January.
I am too. When I heard you were on the docket, I knew that we're going to have a pretty special event for these young people that are coming to Columbus to learn about, making a difference in their communities, in Farm Bureau as an organization, and agriculture as a whole. A great chance for them to develop professional skills and network and hear from experts like you. And before we get into what you're going to be talking about, kind of tell us about yourself and how you fit into the ag picture.
Well, I am a real farmer Brown, first of all. And so I've been living what I'm speaking about. And I've had the privilege as a family business consultant to sit at hundreds of kitchen tables of farmers and ranchers and growers across our country and even countries beyond. And I've learned it has nothing to do with the net worth, but it has everything to do with family genetics. And there's nothing better or worse than working with families. So I specialize in that, as well as the celebration keynotes and the advocacy to make sure that our story is told well and it's told correctly.
Yeah, it's great that 97% of farms are family owned. That is absolutely fantastic. But as you mentioned, there could be some pitfalls to 97% of family farms being run by the family. There are a lot of butting heads. And you and I have had this conversation before about how sometimes generations or even siblings don't see eye to eye on where that farm needs to go and maybe don't even plan for the future. When you talk with older people, the older generation maybe aging out or that middle generation getting ready to take over, is that conversation different from the conversation you're going to be having with younger people at the Winter Leadership Experience in January?
When I'm talking with senior generation, and I've got both the upstarts and the old farts and everybody in between, okay? but what I find with the senior generation is there's usually a lot of pride and fear that I have to deal with. And their biggest concern, after we get through the financial, is this a good business to transition? Is there enough business to transition? I have to make sure that they still feel worthwhile. And I have learned that you never kick a farmer or rancher off the farm and ranch, that they still need to be involved in jobs they can safely do. And by the way, eventually they don't get to choose what those jobs are. So, because we all think we can still do it, And so a lot of it is dealing with the fear and the unknown and the personal identity that I'm a farmer. And how do we bridge that to still let them be a farmer, feel worthwhile, and yet understand that the decision-making and the control needs to be transitioned. And so with both generations, I have to make very clear that you transition three things. The first is the education. And yes, most of us have gone to school and we've gotten our background in education and we grew up on the farm. So we think we have that education. But the education is what we need to do. And then we have to have the experience. Well, how do we do it? And the transition comes in. This is how I have done it. But hey, you got a lot of new ideas. And how do you think it should be done? And by the way, we will transition anything that has to do with technology. So that's a good place to get your foot in the door and get started. I even had a young farmer whose parents were just hunkering down because it was going to cost too much to implement all this new technology. And he said, what about if I paid for it personally and I put it in, it was a tractor they're going to be planting with. And if you can see the benefit of it, a year later, would you reimburse me for that cost? So, oh my gosh, now he's running the whole darn show out there. So we have the education experience, and then we have to transition the hard assets. The challenge is most of the senior generation think they only have to do the third thing and not the first two. And so when it gets to that stage, transition requires legal and financial experts, so that it makes legal sense, it will hold up in a court in law, and that it will trump a will, because wills are changed on a whim. Financial means it has to make sense, not just for estate tax, but for the livelihood and the living of the generations that are involved. We need these people to be our true partners. And then I've got to get that senior generation with a financial advisor to make sure they feel secure, so that even if the next generation screws up and blows it, that we are still financially okay.
One of the topics you're going to be covering, and I want you to talk about too, the resources that you offer after. You're not giving just a talk and then moving on. You're giving these young people a chance to really develop some thought process after you're done talking to them. So what's the topic you're going to be talking about, and what are some of those takeaways that you're going to be giving young ag professionals here in January?
Well, I'm not coming for show, although it will be a lot of humor and real life stories.
There are, yes.
we're going to share, because I get 2 hours with them. I get both of the breakout sessions. So in the first one, we're going to set the stage of here's what's going on. Here's what we need to do. How do you be in a conversation when nobody wants to start to talk about it? And then the second part that we're going to get into the template tools for them to take home, all the way from how you deal with conflict. What are the 3 types of meetings and this communication thing? And I'm just like your young professionals. The more I have to deal with people, the more I like cows. Because if I don't like that little bitty, I'm going to send it to market. But we have to understand that communication is a bloodstream of our business. And when we have a generation that wants to text and tweet rather than talk and meet, we've got to find that common ground, because communication is going to be the bloodstream of a transition. And then we have to make sure we got right people assigned to the process. And I'm finding that quite often it is the younger generation that needs to be assigned to the process of transition. Not that they have to do the work by themselves or that they make all the decisions, but somebody who keeps the process moving. And then I will have to talk with them a lot about their demeanor of intent. How grateful are they for this opportunity? How many times do you grit your teeth and smile and be pleasant and polite? And then how many times do you listen and ask for an opportunity to be heard as well? So I always have to remind the next generation, just because you don't own anything doesn't mean you're powerless. That there is tremendous strength in what all generations bring to the table. Why do you need them? What do they do that drives you nuts? And what keeps you up at night? So these are the types of things, but you're right. The second half, they will get at least 8 template tools to take home. And as I said to my husband, when this crazy daughter-in-law joined the family with all these ideas, even if they don't act like it, we will. And here's the tools we will start. And you will be shocked at what happened. One of the things was, okay, so I put out an outline and we're going to circle what we're going to be talking about at a meeting. My father-in-law comes out and says, what is that all about? And I said, Dad, this is really important. And you've got so much experience this. We need to talk about, we're going to have a meeting on this date at this time. Would you chair the meeting? He was there. So how do you honor legacy and transition? And how do you transition it to a new legacy and transition? And what happens is this does not have to be a dreaded process. It can be one that brings great peace of mind, security for the business, and we can all sit together happily at a holiday table. And that's what we're all about when we do. If we huff and puff, we blow your house down.
One of the very special guests at this year's Young Ag Professionals Winter Leadership Experience, January 26th and 27th in Columbus, Jolene Brown. You can find out more about the event and even get registered online at experienceyap.org. Jolene, great to see you and look forward to seeing you in person in January.
Thank you, Ty.
Hi, I'm Brian Baldridge, Director of the Ohio Department of Agriculture. Farmers, now is the time. It's not too late to enroll in H2 Ohio, and we need your help. Earn incentives by putting best practices on your farm that benefit soil and water quality. Thousands of farmers are already enrolled, so do your part and make your acres count. Contact your local soil and water conservation district to enroll today. Thank you and have a great day.
Find out how Nationwide Agribusiness can help you grow your business. Get to know the people with the experience and knowledge to help you. Whether you are looking to protect your farm or ranch from the ground up, or need someone who understands your changing commercial ag needs. Find out how to better manage the risks of your ag business, or how quickly you can get back to business. Learn how you can protect your next with Nationwide on your side.
Welcome back to the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. I'm Ty Higgins. We have talked all year with the Ohio Soybean Council about the ways they use checkoff dollars to drum up demand for soybeans for Ohio farmers, do research to find better uses and more markets for Ohio soybeans, and of course, education and communication, a big part of that soybean checkoff as well. And during this time of year, many of us want to reflect back on the past, but right now, the Ohio Soybean Council and Brandon Kern, their Director of Public Affairs and Issues Analysis, looking ahead with more and better uses of that Ohio soybean checkoff dollar. Brandon, welcome to the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast.
Hey, Ty, good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
So as we look ahead at the checkoff and the way that those funds may be used, what are some of the things that you're thinking about and who's all involved in this thought process?
Yeah, so, you kind of alluded to it there in your opening. Traditional uses of the checkoff have always been focused on increasing demand for the product, right? Thinking about promoting international trade, other, domestic uses for soybean and the products that are produced with soybean. Research, improving agronomy, helping farmers improve their productivity through the agronomy of the process. Of course, consumer awareness and education. But part of an effort that we are really concentrating on, in addition to those, traditional functions of investing farmer checkoff dollars, is what we're calling Think Future. And Think Future is all about helping farmers anticipate the changes that are on the horizon that will impact their farm operations. Changes in the marketplace, changes in technology, even changes in regulatory requirements that they could be facing are a part of this Think Future effort. And the really cool thing about a lot of the work that's being done on Think Future is that it's being done, a lot of it, with a multi-state collaborative from the Midwest. So Ohio, Indiana soybean, Iowa soybean, Missouri, Illinois has been involved at different points along this process. We're collaborating and pulling together checkoff dollars from a multi-state region to focus on some of these shared interests that we have for farmers all across the Midwest, which is a pretty cool thing.
This big picture thinking. And when you think about the future state of soy, where do you see that going?
Yeah, so, U.S. soybean farmers grow nearly 1/3 of the soybeans in the global market, right? So we have to think about interacting in a truly global market, and to ensure that soy retains access to quickly changing consumer-driven marketplace. We helped fund an effort to help farmers make smart and informed decisions that will increase their opportunities for future success. This exercise uncovered 5 major trends, and we worked with some consumer researchers and other analysts who are looking at different places in the marketplace. We uncovered 5 major trends that we think we need to help farmers prepare for in the future. One is a rising focus on high quality soybean oil and meal. And so, we think in a global marketplace, U.S. soybean farmers are at an advantage here. If overseas markets, buyers across the globe are looking for high quality soybean products, we think we have the advantage over some of our other competitors around the globe. Another thing that is a major trend that we're facing: changes in fuel demand, including alternative fuels and emerging uses of different types of fuels, changing the marketplace. I mean, we're starting to see that right now, especially when it comes to soybean oil. There's an expanded need for protein across the globe, given a growing population and some of our developing countries wanting more protein in their diets. Increasing demand for protein in both animal and plant form. We have to help soybean farmers prepare for that as a dynamic. Increasing global competition for soy. Yes, there is, but one of the things we found is that infrastructure can make for a significant competitive advantage when we're talking about moving those commodities around the globe from a competitive standpoint. So infrastructure makes a big difference. And then finally, that 5th trend that we found through this, future state of soy exercise was that there's an emerging and diversified revenue streams that farmers can take advantage of if they are looking for some of those different opportunities. You think about all the focus on greenhouse gases and climate change, sequestering carbon, for example, raising your crop more sustainably. We know that there are developing marketplaces out there with companies who want to be able to put a label on their product that says this was produced with inputs and feedstocks that were raised sustainably. And so for farmers who are kind of thinking that way, there's an opportunity out there that we've identified as a part of this exercise.
As many times as you said the word future, you said the word change. And I know that as we talk about what the farmer looks like, you and I have seen research about how that dynamic is going to change. And I think maybe a lot of the people they work with, including ag retailers, will have to adjust accordingly as well.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. If you look at, obviously there's been this development of this apparatus of ag retail around the production farmer for a number of years. This has been taking place. But we're going to, through our research and some of our work with Think Future, and some of the conversations we've had with, cooperative leaders, other agri-retail business leaders across the country, we're going to see continued evolution of that too. And it's really going to be focused, I think, on a service model that is really kind of a business to business emphasis. light asset model, think Amazon, more data-driven solutions. They want to present themselves in the future as solution centers for the farmer themselves. So, if a farmer has questions about plugging into that sustainability market that we just talked about, the ag retail apparatus and cooperatives, I think, of the future are going to be focused on being that resource center. Providing technology and automation, I think, will be a continuing trend that will be a service increasingly provided by the ag retail sector as well.
You can't talk about the future without talking about AI. Where does it fit into the picture?
Yeah, so artificial intelligence, kind of it's a buzzword right now for some people, and it's a little bit scary. It's a little bit exciting. For agriculture, I think that, whether you're ready or not, we need to prepare for an evolution in the use of technology, and artificial intelligence is going to be part of it. If you look at the opportunity for automation in some of our systems, we also know that some of the manufacturers out there right now are looking to develop, more visual perception tools, speech recognition, so voice commanded operations in your farming equipment. Think about things like that. AI can be used in helping farmers in their decision-making process, for risk management, for your agronomy decisions. Using the use of sensors on the farm is also going to be, I think, an emerging trend. John Deere, for example, has just rolled out their See and Spray technology system, as one of the companies that we talked to as a part of our research in this space, where sensors will actually look at the field as the sprayers are going across the field, identify where the weeds are, and provide if you're talking about a herbicide treatment need, and to deliver a targeted spray just in that area, just to hit, where your weed problem is, you're going across the field under that See and Spray system. I mean, pretty amazing stuff, and very sophisticated. It's coming down the pipe.
Yeah, as you said, the future is now. As far as that technology is concerned, it's going to be amazing to see where it goes here in the next year or two. You have been a regulatory watchdog for agriculture for most of your career. Where do you see the regulatory system going moving forward in your research?
Yeah, so this is one of the areas that we're spending quite a bit of time, and as a reminder for your listeners, we cannot use checkoff dollar. When you say regulatory, a lot of people automatically go to trying to advocate to change regulatory measures. We cannot use checkoff dollars to advocate or lobby in any way. But one of the things that we can do is help farmers anticipate the impact of proposals and future regulatory proposals that are, that we know are out there. And so we can anticipate some of those things and help them prepare. And so, I think this is a huge area. If you look at kind of what's going on right now, some of this think future is near future, some of it's longer term future. More in the near future, we have proposals by the US EPA right now, for example, on how to handle mitigating impacts of ag chemistries on endangered species. And some of those proposals out there right now would require farmers to make mitigation measures, helping farmers understand, how to comply with such a proposal, what the cost of compliance of that proposal would be. It fits right into this Think Future effort that we are undertaking as well. And so we spent a lot of time, for example, looking at some of these proposals. Another example, we talked about climate change a little bit earlier, greenhouse gases, the increasing emphasis on looking to agriculture to be a leader in the area of carbon sequestration through, minimum or no-till practices, those types of things. How, if that becomes a more of a compliance issue in the future, how do we help farmers prepare for something like that? Or, what type of demand is it going to place on farmers so that we can help tell the story of that? So, regulatory frameworks and, requirements on how you produce your commodities are an ever growing challenge for Ohio farmers. And it's something that we are, as a part of this Think Future effort, really focusing on, trying to anticipate what could be coming down and getting that information in front of farmers ahead of time so they can help prepare or decide what they want to do. Maybe potentially they do go advocate because, the information they get back is, that's not really workable. I need to go advocate. And then, they can go do that. So that's a big part of what we're doing as well.
Finally, one of the big success stories for Ohio soybean farmers over the last 2 decades has been biofuels. And it's been a steady increase in the use and demand for biofuels. But I think here in the next few years, we're going to see it literally take off. Where did you see biofuels and the soybean demand moving forward with, as far as aviation in particular?
Yeah, we have seen just a huge growth in the production of soybean oil here domestically in the U.S. It is evolving, and a lot of that is tied directly to the use of that oil in biodiesel, renewable diesel, and then on the future horizon, sustainable aviation fuel. Soybean oil is kind of a drop-in product that can be put into the process right now, and refined and made into a renewable source of diesel fuel. And take that diesel fuel one step further, and you can make sustainable aviation fuel out of it. There's a significantly growing demand for this product amongst the airline industries. They have made huge commitments. And today, sustainable aviation fuel, as it stands today, is the best option for decarbonization for the aviation industry in the near and midterm. And so they are certainly looking at a lot of other technologies, but utilizing sustainable aviation fuel that's made from soybean oil is right now the most viable option. And so we're starting to see that in the marketplace. We have entered into a number of different, so part of this Think Future effort that we're doing at Ohio Soybean Council. We just entered into a national coalition led by Delta and Boeing just a couple of weeks ago. That is going to be an effort that you're going to see more and more public awareness effort around this. So, a communications effort, a consumer education effort, where we're going to be on the airwaves talking about the benefits of sustainable aviation fuel to the general population. And so that's really exciting for us. And, I think the thing about this, Ty, too, is as a state, here in Ohio, we are uniquely positioned to play, I think, a very significant role in this as we move forward. We are the easternmost quadrant of the growing region. If you look at where renewable diesel and the refineries, the refinery infrastructure that exists right now, everything is west of the Mississippi for the most part, because California is the biggest marketplace for this product right now. But I think as the East Coast starts to increase demand for renewable diesel, biodiesel, and sustainable aviation fuel, if you look at where Ohio's positioned from a logistics and supply chain standpoint, and the feedstock and processing needs that are required to produce this, with the recent announcement, Louis Dreyfus Company planning to build a new soybean crush plant in Ohio, we're going to move up into near, if not into, the top 5 of states with soybean oil production capacity. So we've got our good partners at Cargill, ADM, and Bunge already here operating in Ohio. You add Louis Dreyfus to that equation here in a couple of years when they build their new plant in Upper Sandusky, and we're going to be a top 5 soybean oil producing state. We have great logistics and supply chain infrastructure already in place, and we'll be the closest location for that to the East Coast to meet East Coast demand of any state that grows soybeans. And so there's a lot of excitement around this. I think there's a ton of potential, and we are working to prepare our farmers to be prepared for that future.
Yeah, a lot of exciting things on the horizon for Ohio soybean farmers, and the Think Future approach has the Ohio Soybean Council and Brandon Kern, the Director of Public Affairs and Issues Analysis, on top of all those future changes for the Ohio soybean industry. Brandon, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Always good to be with you, Ty. Anytime, man.